And, I've got a lot of things wrong, like really, really wrong. The wires had gone into the wall, and then the plaster had come and plastered everything. And then I realized that, oh no, something was wrong. And then they had to chisel the wall. Hey guys, welcome back. Okay. For those of you that have been watching me for a while, you will know that I have been building a house in Ghana for quite some time. And, I've got a lot of things wrong, like really, really wrong. Honestly, I started building, not with a plan, but with some money. And what I mean by that is when I started my building process, I actually didn't have a proper plan in place as to how I was going to structure this and how it was going to work in terms of like payment breakdown and, just having the basic things figured out. Literally just went in there and said, okay, well, this is what we're going to do, and just started building, right? That is not the way to build, because you put yourself into a lot of problems, which has happened to me. Like I said, I have made a lot of mistakes along the way. I have had to make corrections to things. I've built things and then realized that actually, no, I don't like it like that. I want to change it like this. And my planning process was definitely not the best. I'm sure some of you, who like to pick up on things have said it in the comments. And so there are things that I did wrong along the way, Another thing I definitely didn't factor in was the fluctuation of the cedi. That has been crazy in this journey. It's almost like if you don't want the cedi to affect you, you have to build as fast as possible, because, there are times where the cedi is kind of like stable for a while and you're good, and then you get comfortable, and then just like that overnight, right? Things happen, like you might win, you might lose, you just don't know. It's like throughout your building process, if you're having to do currency conversion, there's a chance that you're going to lose at some point, And so the budget that you thought you had, say for example, you think you have $100,000, right? And you plan your build structure with this, and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, I've got $100,000 for this. This is what's going to cost this, and this, right? And you've done your budget. Anything can happen. If the cedi moves, your budget could almost be slashed in half, and that's not an exaggeration. So you just like all these kind of things really did affect what has happened. You've seen a lot of things that have happened to me on camera. I've had stages where I've been able to move and then I've had to stop because, I didn't have a bulk sum of money. And that's not to say that you have to have a bulk sum of money before you build, because you definitely don't have to have that. But you do have to have an idea of what a particular task is going to cost you, right? So for example, if you're coming to do wiring, you need to have all your I can't even talk. You need to have all your wiring money ready, right? So when the guy comes, the electrician comes, gives you a quote for the wires and stuff like that, you need to know exactly what you want, where you want, so you're not changing things later, because it will cost you twice. It will cost you twice. I can't remember, I don't know if you guys remember where, I can't remember what it was for actually. There was something that happened and the wires had gone into the wall, and then the plaster had come and plastered everything. And then I realized that, oh no, something was wrong. And then they had to chisel the wall where that had already been plastered, chisel the wall to correct what was in the wall, right? The wiring that was in the wall. And that cost money. Now, if I had been ahead of the game, I would never have had those issues in the first place. And so it's like I was leaking money in places that I didn't need to be leaking money, right? Things had to be done over. The weather changes things. There's certain times where it's great to build. There's certain times where it's not great to build. And especially if you have a team on site where, you're paying them to be there and it's raining, hey, no one could do any work. So everybody's just sitting on site like this. And you're just sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh, nothing is happening. These things can happen if you don't plan properly. Like, I can't tell you how important it is to make sure that you plan properly when it comes to your build so that you do not waste money. And yes, there are different ways that you can build, right? So you can build and have a contractor take care of everything, which is going to essentially cost you more, right? Have a contractor take care of everything from beginning to end. And you think you don't need to do much, but you do. You can go that way, or you can build the kind of way that I was building at the time, which was I have somebody that's a contractor and he comes in and I'll say, okay, look, what can we get done? And then he'll be like, okay, we can plaster. And so then I'll plaster and then I'd stop until I got some more money, and then I'll do the next thing and do the next thing. So there are different ways that you can kind of build, but you really need to understand your process in building, and you need to make sure you understand what is coming next. You need to understand the order of doing things, because if you do certain things in the wrong order as well, it will also cost you money. And so you must know what you're doing. Like, for example, you can't start getting the guy to plaster the outside of the house, right? Meanwhile, the inside of the house isn't plastered yet, because you still need to do wiring. I mean, you can do it that way, but it's essentially going to be more effective for you to plaster everything at once, right? He's going to give you a better quote because he doesn't have to come back and all that stuff. Like, there's process to building. And building in the West and building in Ghana are two different things. I don't care if you're a building contractor from the West and you've been doing it for 50 years of your life. When you come to Ghana, they do not build that same way. They build different. You're going to have to learn what it's like to build in this new terrain, because your eyes are going to be opened up to so many things. They don't have, for starters, they don't have the same kind of tools that we have, right, when we build. And so therefore, there's margin for error. If I tell you in my house, sometimes it annoys me because actually it's not fully square, because there are times, and I noticed it more so when they came to fit the kitchen, which is behind me. When they came to fit the kitchen behind me, it's like they're working with angles that are 90-degree angles, but then you go slot a cupboard in and it's not a 90-degree angle. So as much as, the local artisans will be like, oh yeah, we know how we're doing it, and da-da-da-da, you're going to get some things off. Now, I'm not saying that can't happen in the West, but it's more likely to have happen here because the tools are not what they have. And so because they also don't have the tools, things can take longer as well. And so that can be a delay. Now, let's just go back a minute, and let's put my examples aside, right? Let's look at other people who have recently talked about building, right? For example, let's take Scott. Scott said his house had 2 roofs. Why did it have 2 roofs? Because the first roof that was done, which was the secret roof, came out and it was leaking. It leaks absolutely everywhere. I don't know where he got the contractor from. I don't know if he used recommendations. I'm not sure. But these things can happen. And the reason that sometimes it can happen is because sometimes someone is not sitting there watching over the important stages of the build. So sometimes a contractor's left to do whatever he wants, right? And so he might do it cheaply. And I'm not saying that was the case in Scott, and that was not necessarily the case when it came to Scott, but these are things can happen. Sometimes he can do it cheaply, he can cut corners, trying to save some money, or sometimes when you're not here, you don't understand how the building process is. So sometimes, other things will pop up and we don't want to pay for it because we think, we're being ripped off. Like, no, I'm not going to pay extra for it. Do what I told you to do. And so therefore it can cause us a problem later. Again, I'm not talking about particularly Scott. I'm just saying in general, sometimes these things can affect us. So there is a lot that goes into building. Things can happen. I mean, let's take Ron's building experience. Now, obviously he had some issues with who was potentially building for him the first time, where he lost a lot of money, right? $161,000 blown, essentially, right? Now, him being on the ground here and building, he's been able to see what can be done with a lot less money. And that's not to say that you can't build from abroad. You definitely can build from abroad. Many people have done it, built from abroad by going back and forth, or having someone that they actually trust, that they actually know, that understands what it's like to earn $1 and lose $1. Those kind of people, working with those kind of people is sometimes a bit easier. And so you can kind of you can oversee the project from abroad. That's not impossible to do, but you need to make sure that if you are going to build from abroad, that your reins are a lot tighter and you are monitoring every single step of the process. Now, you can't monitor the process if you don't know what to monitor. And so that leads me to tell you about my new, what do I call it? Ebook, PDF download or whatever. So essentially, I've created a document that will help you build from abroad. And it goes over so many things. It goes into detail right from the beginning, from where you're planning to buy land, all the way up until You're done, finished, and you have the keys to move into your house. It literally covers absolutely everything. I go into mistakes that people have made along the way. I give it very real, up-to-date numbers. There is a budget planner in there. There is how to deal with contractors, what to look for when you're hiring a contractor, red flags, all of that good stuff is all in there. And if I had had this when I was first building, I would not have made the mistakes that I have made along the way, honestly speaking. And I can tell you that when I came to Ghana, I had zero building knowledge. But if I tell you right now, I have had so much insight into building. It's crazy. Now, I've not just built this house. I can say that I have been a part of building for 10 years in Ghana. And that's just honest truth. If you've been following me for some time, you will know that we started with some land in Oyibi, which was meant to be an estate, which didn't go according to plan, right? But there was some experience that happened there. Then we had purchased another 2 plots of land, and there is a half-built house on there. Literally a half-built house. And so, again, lots of experience came from that process as well. But I would say the compactness of my building experience was really here because I was obviously on the ground every day, seeing exactly what was happening and being with the workers and all of that stuff. So I have had a lot of insight into building, as well as the fact that I've interviewed so many people that have been building. I've seen so many houses. I've done house tour after house tour after house tour. I have spoken to people. I have so much knowledge. And so I really didn't want that knowledge to go to waste. And so I decided to put it into this new downloadable and use not just my experience, but other people's experience in building as well. And honestly speaking, like I said, if I had had this book, when I started, I would not have made a lot of the mistakes that I've made. This book will save you thousands. And I kid you not, it will literally save you thousands because you don't know what you don't know, right? You have to almost have somebody who's gone through the process before you that can tell you their mistakes so that you don't make the same ones. Because a lot of us, the mistake that we keep doing is that we are making the same mistakes that somebody else has made over and over and over again. It's like us in the diaspora, we're so predictable when it comes to making mistakes. Like, it's almost like those that are the builders that come to build for us, they've seen people make this mistake and they're banking on the fact that we'll make the mistake so that they can profit from it. But actually, if we come together as a collective, pool our resources, our knowledge together, then it mitigates a lot of that risk. And so that's essentially what I've done in this new ebook, right? So as I said, the ebook will go through so many different things. It has 8 core modules. It will tell you the best times to build. It will give you contractor conversations. It will tell you questions to ask. It will help you build from abroad without even being in here. But it's not just for those who are building from abroad. It's also for those that are building from here that really have no knowledge. So even if you're a woman and you're coming to building your own and you're a little bit worried about it, the book will also help you too, because it gives you literally a step-by-step process as to what you should be looking for, what you should and shouldn't be doing, how you should build, the things you could be monitoring, how to keep a tight rein on your money so that you're not losing money and so that you make sure that you are covering your bases. So no one could come knocking on your door and say, hey, you're not supposed to do that. You know, it just basically covers all those things. But anyway, I don't want to talk about that too much because honestly speaking, the book is just as much for you as it is for me. Yes, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say, oh, there's no benefit in this book, in you purchasing this book from me. There definitely is a benefit for me because obviously, you know, the book is not free. It ain't free, right? Nothing in life is free. But the amount that is going to save you means that the book is also of benefit to you too. I have literally pulled all my resources into putting this guide together for you. So it's there to help you along the way. Even if you're already in the middle of your building journey, this guide can still help you to make sure that you are not leaking money. So anyway, I'm going to leave the link to the journal, or I keep calling it a journal, the book. I don't even know what to call it. What do I call it? A book, a downloadable? I don't know. PDF? What do I call it? I don't know. But anyway, okay, let's call it an ebook. Let's go with the ebook. So the link to download the ebook is in the description box. Go ahead, check it out, have a look at it. If you have any questions and you'd like to ask me, feel free to send me an email. You can email me at Dela at, oh, what is my email address? My goodness, my brain is slow this morning. You can email me at dela@mortodela.com and ask me your questions. But pretty much the book is very, very detailed. It is 48 pages of detailed knowledge. So it's not a two-page PDF that you're going to get and wish that you'd never purchased. There are some serious gems in there. It gives you current building costs. It gives you current building processes. And so you will not be left behind if you have this ebook. So that's it. But anyway, I'm going to leave the video there. Also, if you would like to do a one-to-one consultation with me about moving to Ghana, you can also send me an email, same email address, dela@mortodela.com. Also, if you would like to rent my single Airbnb, I'm down to one Airbnb now. You can also send me an email, same thing. If you'd like to also purchase some of my shea butter, you can click the link in this video, or you can check out the website, which is www.fafabydela.com. Okay, and that's the end. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Don't forget to also like, comment, and share this video. Until next time, I am out. Nutifafa.